The VIX hits $10.89 this summer. Oh, baby, we're going to have an aggressive slides. Please start marking off the places in which you need to buy the companies that you love right now. And this is the big secret of all of investing that no one wants to accept. The actions that you've taken over the last 3 years have gotten you exactly where you are today. That's it. No debate. If talk is cheap, why is everybody so engaged in debating? Because people want to be seen opposed to being rich and wealthy. You got you here. So if you don't like yesterday, my review process to get ready for the week was to watch 89 videos. That's me already knowing what to do and what my thesis is. If you do not like where you are, change the action that you take on a daily and weekly basis to get an edge in the market and your business and to have freedom. If you like where you are, please continue to find ways to add an advantage to what you're currently doing. Red Panda Stock Market Study Blueprint. I want you to study the top 20 futures every single day. Study the top 50 stocks based in the US market. I want you to study the top 51 through 300 after that immediately. And then most importantly, invest in 2 index funds and 2 tech. Even in downside risk, quote unquote rotation. So it was meme stock, crypto, consumer cyclical, banking. If you're not actively looking at the market 8 to 10 hours a day, you're not even going to be able to see when the rotation begins to happen and marking off your prices in advance to know where to get in. And then when your tech is bleeding, everyone's telling you, well, the hedge funds are now rotating into palladium. No, the indexes will give you a hedge because you have diversified assets in your portfolio. And then when they go back up, as they did today, you can participate in an upside swing of the market. Stick to your plan. And the higher your execution is, the lower your hate and envy for others will be. The people that are winning and that are making money, no issues. You notice all the traders, investors that are really good, they all get along. And then the ones who are not good and the gains are not there, always a rebel rousing. Stay focused. Your execution in these next 2 or 3 years will determine how things go for you in 2030. Jerry had a great question. So do the trades have little to no drawdown when you get in them? Does a good trade almost immediately go in your favor? So when I'm trading the futures market, I used to have a rule of 7 seconds. If it was not in my favor, if I was not in profit, I would look to get out. I've kind of extended that to like 20 seconds maximum. But when you're in a good trade, if you traded ES today and you're in a sniper group, on average, how long do you need to know before a trade is working in your favor? For me, that 20-second mark will be a great gauge. When you get into a good trade, you immediately should see some positive profit in your favor. If a trade is staying at break even or slightly negative for a minute to 3 minutes, I know the trade is not good. That's why I'm so focused on timing, top of year, end of year trading, Monday, Friday trading. You have to know what cycles which have the most volume. But for me, for sure, when I get to 20 seconds, if I'm not in the positive, I'm looking to lock in profit and get out with a little bit of profit to prevent from losing or getting out of the trade altogether. How to use Fibonacci retracements for entries. If you want me to do a full tutorial on this here on Market Mondays in the next couple weeks, put yes in chat. But I will say, use the time frame that I gave you to look at the stock and draw from top to bottom. And one area that you can get in is off the 20-6. I wish I can give you our levels in the dream team. I can't, but if you want me to do that tutorial for you, I'll spend an entire episode on that. What's the best way to determine entry and exit prices for stocks? We went over it. Go look at the Mark Cuban episode. I swore that I would never talk about the indicator again, so I won't. Go look at the Mark Cuban episode, but then you can use the 72. You can use the 200, the 50. You can use the 10 EMA. Great. And then also you can use VWAP for momentum. What are your thoughts on crypto being adopted in South America? I think it's a potentially innovative way for a government to get a financial edge. My thesis is the same, though. You should only have 1 to 8% of your net worth in crypto. What's a good entry for MGM? Stay tuned to the end of the show, and then I'll give the entries for MGM and a few others. What's a good entry for BIDU, and what are your thoughts on it? My thought on it is I don't love Chinese company as a primary asset to invest in, but I'll give you the entry towards the end of the show before we wrap up. But I like American companies, in particular American tech companies, more so than Chinese. What should be our second entry point when we're trading futures? This is a great question. So now that the summer is here, the volume is going to be a little bit lighter. And I was talking to P and Dom about this earlier, but you have to then, if the market consolidates, write this down. If the market has less volume, or we're more quote unquote range bound, you have to use a shorter target. It's not about another entry. Use your same entry point, but use a different target. That's why I tell you guys, whether the market is going up a ton of points, only going up a little bit, or going up somewhere in between, you have to have targets according. But you can use VWAP as a secondary indicator. You can also use Golden Cross. Let's say use a 10 or let's say 14 EMA, pair it with a 20 or 14 with the 50. If it crosses above, you can look to go long, but it's really about having one target that will work in short conditions, one in long conditions, and one in mid range. Do you read 10Ks when researching the market? Never. For the companies that I love, the 5 companies that I love the most, and I've talked about them ad nauseum here, yes. For everything else, no. Technicals now have become a visual representation of what the fundamentals are. I don't go through the 10K, but just because I don't do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. So regarding Apple, Microsoft, and the 3 others that I love dearly, I've tried to read every article that I could, at least since 2000, about it. So I know the company front to back, usually. If you have not read a 10K for a company that you love, you probably should. A few of you had a couple great questions, and kudos to you on Twitter, who asked me about Benner cycles. It's not enough time today to go over it, but next month I want to go over it for sure. But I would tell everyone here, begin buying every book that you can on Benner cycles and look at the 20-year cycle more so than any other to see. You'll notice something, however, there is a resistance point or an area of like maximum optimism, which is at the top. And then you have a bottom layer of maximum pessimism or support at the bottom. And you can see which years in which things begin to turn over or could. And I know people often say that no one knows what the market is going to do or doesn't have a crystal ball. I do. But there have been people who have predicted when things are going to crash years in advance. And I'll show you an example later. How did you know that the price of Tesla and Bitcoin were going to drop in advance? When I say you need to go look at the market every day, once you're looking at the highs and lows, so I know for a fact, when Tesla normally hits a all-time high in normal conditions, it's going to drop 50%. That came from me doing the work. It's not something that I read. Then the crystal ball, the spots in which I want to get into the market, I saw how high it was, and I thought this was going to happen 6 months ago. Remember when I was saying, hey, I think Tesla may drop down to 394, and everybody was like, yo, he don't know, he crazy, it'll never go. And then it took off, right? And I was like, yo, I was wrong. It didn't drop. And I'm still pro Tesla, pro Elon. But the people who were saying he doesn't know hadn't invested in it. If you were invested in Tesla pre-2020, it was a hard thing to see. And that's why it was very hard to put more than 10 to 20% of your portfolio into it, because the drawdown of 50% was too heavy. So this is experience. So I'm like, okay, they haven't lived through the cycle. The experience of looking with Trump any noise that's out in the marketplace and out on social. So when I go through and mark my prices in which I want to buy, and those are the same prices that I give to the stock club, it was an easy correlation to see that it could come down to that place. The easy answer is just looking 8 hours a day at the market. I wish I had an easier way for you. How do you deal with the emotional aspects of trading? Literally just trading Monday, Thursday, and Friday and sticking to 8 trades maximum per week. Now, I may practice more than that, but write this down. 8 trades per week live will give me peace. That's all you need. You guys can debate and do whatever you want to do. I don't care. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. But you have to limit the number of trades that you take and only trade during prime times. Because now, when you're bleeding past prime time, the market that was there in 2020 is not there now. Especially in a consolidated market. Trading now is really a game of discipline, and the men and women that are most disciplined are going to be able to win the most.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.